If it's the same.
What?
Oh,
Oh.
great. I think we're streaming.
Oh, hello.
You guys are trying a live stream out for the first time. So much so that I don't know how to make like our screens
There is crackling, Joe. I don't know.
because it's so loud.
I can't see any. You're going to have to stay on top of any comments that come in because I can't see them.
Oh. Am I crackling still?
No, you're better now.
Okay.
Sorry,
Well,
everybody.
maybe I'll start the recording.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
But then I don't know how to make, like, I wish it was like split screen.
Oh.
One moment, everyone. Alice, why do you vamp while I try to figure out how to split
Vamp?
screen? Yeah.
I don't know what that word means.
That's what you said in the parenting podcast, and I described the definition to you. It's to make up.
did?
It's to make up for time. Like I'm trying to figure something out, so I just like need you to like.
I do remember that
Yeah.
actually. Okay, so everybody who's tuning in, Queer Cinema Catch-Up is going live for the first time in honor of the season finale of White Lotus, which had its final episode, Amor Fati. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, this evening. And Joe and I watched it separately, and so we have not yet conferred on our opinions or thoughts or takeaways, and so I'm very excited to discuss it with him because I personally had an awful time watching this episode, but because of that, I thought it was really good. And I'll explain. Then Joe figures out.
Blue Prada, hi. We have our first
Hey!
live.
Hi, it's nice
Person.
to talk to you in a live setting. Even I can't see the comments, so I'm relying on Joe to tell me what's being said. No pressure.
They just say hi, and
Hey.
then I did a live test like yesterday, and so Blue Prada was like,
I got an email notification about it. And
"You
I was
went
like,
live." It was just me like not doing anything, just like clicking around on the computer. Yeah. So I don't know if I'll be able to figure out the screen size, but
it's okay, I can be tiny.
no, you're large. It's reversed.
Call me Jacqueline.
You're on the big screen.
Sorry, Lori.
I'm okay with being Lori. That
I know.
that monologue tonight moved
I-
me. It was so good. All right. How do we want to start off this thing?
Top level reactions.
Yeah.
Were you yay, nay? What's your headline?
I mean, should we start even like this is Chris and the catch up?
Oh, I already did that, but I can do it
Oh,
again.
we didn't do our Armand Valentine.
I know. You should say that part.
Oh. So what's the
Not Valentine.
yes?
Nobody.
That's
see
what
me.
was said.
Nobody wants to be me.
As for like yay or nay on this episode, I was a big, large yay.
Whew. I was worried you were going to say nay. I was as well. But I personally found this episode to be extremely hard to watch. I have never been more disturbed and disquieted than I was watching Tim try to poison his family.
Yeah.
And then when Lachlan, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just blasting into this because it was
Yeah, it's fresh.
affecting. So basically what happens in this episode is Tim kind of follows through with his murder-suicide idea to ensure his family does not suffer the consequences of his bad choices. And he takes the fruit that he learned was poisonous in episode 1 and uses Saxon's blender, which I thought was a very genius little writerly move there, to create pina coladas for everyone in his family except for Lachlan. Because Lachlan answered the question correctly of, would you be able to live without money? And he goes, yeah, Dad, even though he said not two scenes before that he's a people pleaser and will say whatever he thinks the other person wants to hear.
Yeah.
And so then he has to drink Coke, and then Tim's watching them all drink it. I really thought they were going to die, or that there was going to be some kind of, it wasn't going to be strong enough or whatever, which I guess is kind of what happened. But he knocks it all out of their hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day, Lachlan decides to make a protein drink. His brother just reamed him out for being weird when they all hooked up and for not being a man on his own, 2 feet. So poor Lachlan's like, okay, fine, I'm going to make this smoothie and prove that I'm a man. And then they made it seem like he was gonna die. I was absolutely devastated. What were your thoughts?
I mean, it was really effective. It was kind of like, don't you clean out the smoothie container before you make the smoothie? You know, it was just kind of like, or why did the dad take precautions the previous night? And then I watched it with a big group of people, and they like, it's clearly in the frame that like after the dad pours all the pina colada drinks and then they decide not to drink it, you can clearly see in the frame that there's like the remnants of the drink. But then they cut to like this dramatic close-up, like zooming in on the drink, and someone screamed like, "We know about the fucking seeds!" So the foreshadowing was very heavy. But
I still didn't like. I knew it was gonna come back into play, but I just didn't. I didn't think it was gonna be Lachlan for some reason, even though it's very obvious.
yeah, it was really upsetting. His like, the fact too that we got, what was really well done is hearing Blue Prada thinks that Saxon is still a weirdo.
He is.
He is.
Definitely is. That his look of loneliness when Chelsea abandons him to go reunite with Rick in this beautiful, loving moment. Hats off to Patrick Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that was in season 2, the long-haired woman, Megan Fahey, the look.
yes.
That was the look of this season.
Yes.
But go ahead, sorry.
Blue Prada agrees, saying that was good. Well, what was interesting about that scene specifically is like Patrick Schwarzenegger, his character Saxon, looks off and sees Chelsea and Rick reunite, and there's like this really like soothing, like calm music, and like you kind of feel bad for Saxon in a way because he was like really connecting with Chelsea, and then he looks over at the brunette woman. I forget her name. What's her name?
Chloe.
Chloe. And he's like, well, I hope it works out that you find another person. She's like, yeah, it won't be too hard to find. And then like the music shifts, and then that's when like the Saxon that we've seen change so much over the season like returns, just like disappointment, how he feels like nothing. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I guess I saw it slightly differently, whereas before, earlier in the season, I think he would have been, he wanted the challenge of trying to get these women, especially Chelsea, who seemed uninterested in him. And now, this time, he kind of was not lying to himself anymore, and he just saw how pointless all of his efforts
I like that reading more.
are. But I see what you're saying, too. Like, he did kind of fall back into his usual self. But with more bitterness, I would say, and more emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
What
But
do you think? Oh, go ahead.
what were you gonna ask?
Just about the conclusion of the Ratliff story in general.
I mean, the show left me wanting more with all the storylines, and with my viewing, there was some insider scoop, and apparently, like every character, every storyline had a lot more that they cut for time. So much so, which I believe I can reveal this information, Piper and Zion hook up,
I knew it. I said that was going to happen.
but it was cut for time.
I feel like very smart.
No other big things. I asked our friend, because you sent me the pickleball. Apparently they played pickleball at one point in this episode, and he like didn't recall that moment. But something that was interesting, all that news coming out about the composer.
Yes. What was up with that?
Well, so I only read like the headline of it, and I was like, oh, the composer doesn't look, or Mike White doesn't look too good in this. Like
Yes.
it's not looking too good. But then what I learned today, it's really like the composer's the one who went to the press. He's the one that's like released this new version of the song without permission, and so I think there's something that got twisted in that article.
I mean, yeah. I think I read that article. So for context, there's an article in the New York Times from the theme song composer who said that he has had a difficult time kind of convincing the showrunner creator to go with his own music choices, and he wants it to be more artsy, have more tension. He wanted to include some of the original motif from season 1 and 2 in the third season theme song, and then there was a little bit of backlash where people didn't like the theme song in season 3. I'm imagining this probably got to the composer. And I certainly went into reading this article thinking that he was disgruntled to some extent. You know what I'm saying? I still think I think it was a challenging creative relationship is what I'm going to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way to put it. Blue Prada also asked if we thought, which I think is a good segue, that, well, speaking to all the characters he said, Blue Prada says, do you guys think the characters weren't really well developed? I still don't know or understand Goggins' dad's death or about his mom. And that was like something that was discussed when I was watching with friends tonight, is like there's this whole storyline with Rick, how he wants to get revenge for his father, his mother. There's apparently this man who murdered his father, so he's coming to Thailand to really go to, what's the other country he goes to?
Well, he goes just to Bangkok, which is in.
To Bangkok. Oh, it's the city in Thailand. He goes to a different city. So he goes to kill this man who supposedly murdered his father. And I think there's a lot of people were speculating online that this guy's actually Rick's dad. And it seemed to be...
In the first scene.
Yeah, it was Allison. She's the one that was posted on all the chat sites. But yeah,
No.
it was...
It was my own thought. Independent thought.
No, I'm saying you posted all the chat sites.
Oh, no, I didn't do that. Okay, keep going.
So this final episode, it's like Rick is, so angry because this man returns to the hotel, which I don't know why he's surprised about. Like, obviously, he'd return to the hotel that his wife owns. And Rick is determined to, it seems, like, go through and murder this man, which leads to the finale of this whole episode. It leads to this huge shootout that I was like shocked. I was like, people are dying left and right. Like, holy shit. And in the shootout, Chelsea gets killed in the crossfire. And I guess I should say it's initiated by Rick going up to the man, pulling out the gun that he had in his pocket, shooting him 3 times. As he's backing away, the hotel owner, she's holding the man and saying that this is your father, he told me, which was kind of a rushed, not the most eloquent. It's like, when did he tell you that?
I assume it was after they left the house.
The interaction.
Who are those men? And then
yeah. And then so it leads us to this whole shootout, and then Gay Talk, who's, caught between his spiritual beliefs of like nonviolence, but then also being a security guard, where sometimes you have to be violent to protect people.
And he wants to move up the social
Wants to
ladder.
move up the ladder, ends up shooting Rick at the demand of the hotel owner, and thus Rick and Chelsea's already probably died. They fall into the water and die in a very beautiful overhead like lily shot. But yeah, back to like the development between, it really left me like I don't think we're gonna get answers, and I don't think it's necessarily important to the show, but to what extent like Walton's true father and like what was all going on about that, I definitely was like questioning some of that. Like, why didn't the dad, when he saw him again at the hotel, just say, "I'm your father"? Like, why was he still so coded?
I think the reason is because when he sees Rick in the hotel, he walks over and he goes, "I remember you need to get out of my hotel. You came to my house, you bothered my wife, you lied to her." He's like, "We're leaving soon." Then this man says, "I remember your mother." He calls her a bunch of terrible names. And he goes, "She told you a fantasy about your father. I knew him. None of that is true. Honestly, you're better." Something like, "You're better off without him," or "It's no great loss." So what he's saying, really, even though he's saying it in such a cruel way, is, "I'm your dad, and I'm a terrible piece of shit, basically. And you're better off not knowing me, but I'm not going to come clean and tell you because I'm a piece of shit." So I feel like he was both, he didn't want to tell Rick and give him that knowledge or that see or whatever, but also he was being honest.
Do you think in that moment, like to the audience, it was very obvious to me that he's being coded and saying that like he is the actual father. Do you think that Rick understood in that moment too? Okay.
No, I don't think Rick understood him at all. I think that if he had said, "I am your dad," I don't know, Rick's reaction might have been the same, but maybe not. I think maybe not. I also found it so heartbreaking that he tries to seek out that therapist or the spiritual counselor, whoever you want to call it, and I feel like it was a kind of a subtle, money's gonna win out at the end of the day, and she had a paying client.
Yeah.
Like, wait out here, and if
I
she
didn't
had,
think I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're totally right. Because yeah, like Rick comes to this therapist in complete distress, complete distress.
he needed somebody.
He needed somebody, and
he
she
needed somebody.
tells him to wait, that she has to see a client first, but she sit on this bench, and of course the bench is right where they're taking photos with the celebrity Jacqueline, and leads to the final shootout. Yeah, so
And
it was really intense.
about Chelsea too.
Yeah, Chelsea.
Chelsea always seems so sure. She's so sure of her love for Rick. She's very worried about Rick, but she's very constant in her love and her belief in them as a unit. It was so moving to me, and I knew that one of them or both of them were going to die when this happened. When she said, he was like, I'm free, the monkey's off my back, I can just be happy, and she's so happy, and said something like, so now we're going to be together forever. And he goes, yeah, we're going to be together forever. And she said, that's the plan? And I suddenly realized that she really had a lot of doubt about Rick's connection to her on his end. She was so moved by him saying that, and it was so beautiful. It was really heartbreaking. And so
It
I felt
was.
really, especially because earlier in the previous episode, you see Chelsea have a moment of like romantic or sexual kind of chemistry with Saxon. You know that she could have found like somebody else out there, that she still felt tied. She still felt those, I don't know, that draw to other people, but she was so laser focused on Rick and helping him, and as a result, she had to accept her fate, as she said herself. So I thought that was pretty devastating.
It was devastating. But the way that it was like, that whole thing was happening with Chelsea and Rick at the table, and they profess that they'll be with each other for a long time. It just seemed like the writing was on the wall that Chelsea was going to die. But then it did go next to our trio and leads to that wonderful, magnificent monologue by Carrie, which do you have any quotes from that you could share? Because that, I like, my heart, like I couldn't breathe. I was just like taking it all in.
This is why they cast Carrie Coon.
Yeah, well, so it's like, first Leslie Bibb gives her, like, I'm just like so happy to, like, or I think first Michelle Monaghan, like, is like, I'm so glad you guys could come. Like, this has been such a wonderful, like, retreat. And then Leslie Bibb is like, at my church we say such and such. And she's like, I feel like I find, like, I am able to, like, what does she say?
So
you plant your garden, and you like take all this work to like make it grow. And I feel like and one day you just look out and your garden's bloomed. And I feel like I'm looking out right now and the garden's bloomed.
Yeah, and Jacqueline said that I felt, before I came here, I felt so heavy, and you brought me to the light, like very much my friends would save them. And I kind of want to back it up a little bit, because they sort of set it up where Jacqueline seeks out Carrie Coon, has just had this hookup gone wrong. She's lying in bed still. She goes, hey, we're going to breakfast. Do you want to come? And she blows her off. And then Jacqueline's still standing in the doorway, and she says, I'm really sorry about Valentin. I really want to be your friend. And that line, the way she said it, really struck me. Like, I was like, oh, I feel really moved by that. And I was looking at Carrie Coon, like, how is she taking that in? I couldn't tell. And then she looks at her friends later on having fun at the pool. She kind of smiles. She kind of looks a little bit disappointed. She has all these different strange emotions flickering on her face. So I'm still not sure how she's feeling about this group of friends. They go to dinner. Yeah, Jacqueline and Kate are just kind of doing the same thing they always do, where they say everything with a real positive spin. They're not really being told how to feel, and it's sort of like Carrie about to ream them out for being phonies. Like, I had a fear that was going to happen. And then instead, it's this beautiful monologue where, and I did write some quotes down in a moment. Carrie says, not Carrie, when you get to this whole week, I'm surprised to hear you guys say that, because this whole week I felt very, very sad. When you get to a certain stage in life, you have to start justifying your choices and kind of figure out why you made the life you made and make it make sense, make it feel okay. And being here, it's just really transparent what all my mistakes are, what all my choices are, and why they led me here, and that's why I'm sad. I've tried all these different belief systems through my life. I tried career, and eventually that burned me. I tried love, and that's the worst belief system at all. It's the most painful. And I even tried being a mother, and for me that wasn't enough to make me okay. And I still didn't know where it was going, and I was just like holding my breath in such anxiety. And then she goes, I don't need any of that to give my life meaning. Time does that. You do that. I love you all, or something like that. And they all say I love you to one another.
Well, then all of them give reactions during her. They're kind of like the audience. They don't know whether this is a positive outcome or a negative outcome. So they're all kind of like reserving their reaction.
Yes, yes.
But it ultimately becomes like a beautiful, really heartfelt thing because of the way that you were saying that Michelle Monaghan and Leslie Bibb, who they're kind of their pretend fake niceness, is Carrie Coon's character was raw. Like she's been throughout the season so much, but she was able to like have a positive turn to it. Like was able to like give positivity. Like I'm gonna be really direct and honest with you, but like shape it in a way that like has a positive outcome. It's not. I was really. That's when I was like blown away by just the writing. I was like, how can Mike White come up with that? Was just like beautiful. It was beautiful.
I think with Carrie, it's almost like she did listen to Jacqueline because Jacqueline was saying before, if you're always on the short end of the stick, you have to ask yourself why. Is it because of choices you're making? Mm-hmm. And in the past, Carrie's been a character who has had this negative view and maybe a victim mentality. And in this time around, instead, she was able to say, I'm glad you're beautiful to Jacqueline. I'm glad you have a happy life to Kate. And she doesn't say anything about her own life. She doesn't say, but poor me. She just goes, I'm just glad to have a seat at the table. And so she's no longer trying to mask or apologize for what's not right in her life. She's just saying, I'm here with you all and that's what matters to me. And I thought that was really beautiful and moving.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was excellent, right?
But she did say she was, maybe you already said this and I missed it, but she says, first I tried to turn to my work as an outlet and to find meaning. Yeah. So it was really well done.
And I think we covered everybody except for Gay Talk. We talked about them a little bit, and then Belinda, right? And Gary and her son.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about them. Oh, Belinda.
Okay, were you surprised? What did you think was going to happen with Belinda and the hush money?
I did not know it was going to go down like that. I was shocked. So Zion takes it upon himself to like negotiate on behalf of Belinda. I'm like, this is not going to go well. And they go and have a meeting with Gary/Greg. And it really seems like Zion is not doing a very good job. They keep trying to react. Like Greg keeps raising his eyebrow. Belinda keeps looking at her son.
He asked for $5 million, and then he did do his research, but he's just being
douchey about it.
Yeah, and very overconfident.
And I loved very overconfident, but in a way you could see through his language that he hasn't really done this before, even though the confidence was there. He doesn't have the support.
Charming and cute. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
It's working, but not on someone like Gary/Greg.
Yeah. And so what's great about when Zion asked for the $5 million, which I thought they were going to start out with $1 million. So I too was caught off guard. I was like, $5 million. And so was Belinda, starts choking. grabs her whiskey that they have. And she just seems to be so she's like, oh my, we're totally fish out of water. This isn't going over well, is what I took from Belinda's reaction. And then Zion's talking for a bit more. And then Belinda just stands up. And she's like, I can't do this. She walks out. And I'm all of a sudden, the crowd watching it, we were yeah, that's the Belinda we know. She's staying true to herself. She can't go through with it. She doesn't want the blood money. She walks out of the hallway. She, looks like she's freaking out. Zion follows her. He's like, what's going on? What's the deal? I thought you wanted this. She's like, she's like, here's the thing. You tell him I'm an honest person. And you go back in there and say that it's going to take such and such to make this happen. She turns it around and she's going all in. She wants that $5 million. So that was her negotiation tactic, is to play this I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. And yeah.
My favorite line was, she said, we're afraid of him, but we need to make him afraid of us. Mm. Which I thought, especially with the line earlier in the episode about how Victoria Ratliff says to her daughter Piper, she's like, we have so much money, more money than even the kings and queens used to have, such a high standard of living, and it is a crime not to enjoy it because it is an insult to all the people who don't have enough.
Oh, Parker Posey's speech?
Yes, to
Wait,
Piper.
did you say what Piper, the end of her story?
what was the end? That she just quits. Yeah, she decides she needs her creature comforts. That's why she gets to put on her dad's kill list.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like with the, I had a connection between Belinda and that. It's kind of like, I don't remember what it was. It'll come to me later. I don't remember. Something about the haves and the have-nots.
With Piper?
And with Belinda. I guess maybe it has something to do with how Belinda, at the end of this, she gets the money. She kind of has this happy ending. And I was kind of on the right track when I was saying last week I thought Pornchai was going to die and that would be what she has to give up in order to take this blood money. But in an even worse way, I don't know if you thought the same thing, she kind of became almost like the Tanya in the situation, because she goes to Pornchai and says goodbye. And he's like, what about our business? We're going to open up together. And then she says to him, oh, I don't know. I can't really commit.
Pornchai's the new Belinda.
What?
Pornchai's the new Belinda.
Yeah.
And almost a repeat to season 1 when Tanya goes up to Belinda and says, I'm sorry, I can't go through the money. Belinda does the same thing to Pornchai. It was heart-wrenching. I thought she was going to ask Pornchai to run away with her. Why didn't she?
Because
money changes people.
Safety thing, because if she wants to get away from Greg/Gary and if she brings Pornchai along, he's going to be like, so now you're really rich? What happened? You can't really bring him along. And I guess like this whole idea about money and should you be atoning for it? Should you just be enjoying it? I feel like there's something about Belinda here and like the class of it all, the class level of it. Even what Tanya did, we see it so negatively, but it's like if you're suddenly, I don't know what to say about this in terms of morality, but I feel like there's something that Mike White's trying to say about having a lot of money and your attachments to other people and how you can, should you feel, because Piper's like, I feel so guilty. Hey, Piper was being so lame for not being able to stick it out for 1 year in a monastery. But at the same time, her genuine sadness when she was crying because she felt so guilty for having so much money when people are suffering so much made me feel bad for her. Anyway, sorry, that was a lot.
I felt bad, but then like when Parker Posey gave her speech, I felt really gross.
It's awful. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, and then, so while we're on the Ratliff family, which I feel like we've been on the Ratliff family for a while, but my view of Lachlan really changed this episode. And I think we were already getting hints of it in the previous episode. I forget if that ends at the monastery where Lachlan seems to have remembered what happened that night with his brother and has a sense of like regret and disturbance. Because there had been talks, had Lachlan really taken the pill that night? Was he even really drinking? Was this all just like an elaborate trick and was now he the predator? But in this episode we get a lot of clarity is he says, like, he's sitting on the couch, Saxon comes out, it's the first time that they've really interacted alone together since that one night. Saxon's being really cagey, he like is gonna go to the beach by himself. Lachlan asks if he can come along. Saxon says no, or like kind of like waves him off, and then Lachlan's like, hey, like, is something going on? Are you mad at me? And then Saxon turns to Lachlan. He's like, you can worship me, but like, don't worship me. Yeah. And then like Lachlan gives some clarity and he's like, he says that he's a people pleaser. And like the way he said, like, it still was like strange how he's like, I saw you like there alone and like your whole goal in life is to get off and you weren't getting off. Yeah. So I felt like I had to help you because I didn't want you to feel left out.
Well, and then I thought that was a really, I mean, I could tell that he was kind of shifting between his brother and sister and like saying what they wanted to hear, but it was interesting to me his level of self-awareness about, one, being a people pleaser, because I feel like someone that young who is a people pleaser, they don't always know that about themselves. And two, that he was aware enough to be like, I'm in a family of narcissists. Did you hear him say that? Yeah. But I was kind of thinking, like, where's your self-preservation? If you have that level of self-awareness, you should go to therapy. Lachlan? Distance with your family. Yeah.
But I mean, they all seem to be very tied to the father. Like the dad's the one that's keeping them all afloat. They're pretty much, they feel like nothing without him. So they like, that's why the dynamic, like everybody, like Lachlan isn't 21 yet, but he's like not a baby, he's not, I mean, maybe he's still a teenager, but they all yeah, they have a trouble splitting from the family.
There is something. There's like a psychology concept. There's like the different roles people will play in a narcissistic family, and it's like the golden child, the one who's like perfect, and then there's like the scapegoat or the bad kid, and then there's the forgotten child. I don't know everything about it, but I feel like maybe Saxon's the golden boy.
Oh, I thought.
Piper, kind of the bad one. The scapegoat is doing everything wrong because she's
Oh,
trying to leave the monastery, and then Lachlan gets forgotten about, which I feel like feels right.
yeah, I can see
I
that.
don't know. But I also wanted to say about Lachlan. Last week I was so caught up on how Chloe seemed very like, "Where's your brother? Why isn't Lachlan here? Why isn't Lachlan here?" And I thought that meant that her story about Gary and his fantasy and what he wants was false, that she was lying. But now I realize she probably wanted them both there as two separate targets to try and make them enact that fantasy. And she figured Saxon would say no, but that Lachlan, because he was weak and a people pleaser, would say yes.
To what?
Doing the fantasy thing with Greg finding his parents.
Oh yeah.
So anyway,
I think it was an all or nothing deal though. You know, if Saxon was out, doesn't matter if Lachlan wants to.
no. I think if Saxon is out, she would have gone for Lachlan. That's
Okay.
what I think. That's why she wanted them both there, to have two
Options. We listen and we do not judge.
I mean, if everyone's consenting, it's okay.
Who else?
I guess like, what did you think about Gay? Like, were you proud of Gay Talk? Were you disappointed in Gay Talk?
The crowd that I was watching with, they seemed to be really annoyed with Gay Talk. I felt bad for him, and he just seems so like.
I was hoping he would live up to his principles, but oh well. I was yelling, "Don't shoot!"
They held off for a while, making you think like maybe he wasn't going to shoot, but then he ultimately did shoot.
And I do not like how like Piper. I guess Chelsea's the exception, but like Piper and Mook, like all the young ladies, why they be so shallow? Chloe,
Yeah.
why they be so like lame and weak?
Well, that was Blue Prada was saying earlier that would you agree like Chelsea's so dead set on being like we're meant to be together like is she too wrapped up in Rick, and does she have a personality outside of Rick?
I feel like they gave her like a belief in fate. I don't know. It's a good question because we don't really know anything about her home life or like. Yeah, I'd say we don't know enough about her to be. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think she's a really good actress, and
She's really good.
Like
Yeah.
friends, and she felt like a real person. But I'm wondering if it had been a different actress in the role, would I have noticed more flatness?
Well, and Blue Prada wants to know if the character's regressive.
Oh.
What does that mean?
It means that we've kind of. All right, so like let's say creating stronger or not even stronger, more well-rounded, fuller female characters on TV. If you look at 19 whatever, it's going to be not as great of an example as someone you might see today. So I think Luca's asking, would Chelsea's character be kind of a step backwards? And
I personally don't think so.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I guess like I can see the one-dimensional nature of the character, and I can see how there are certain patterns with some of the other younger female characters in this particular season. But then with the three older, with Jacqueline, Lori, and Carrie Coon's character, I think they did. I don't know. I feel like maybe it got a little bit more complicated. It's a good question though. About it, 'cause I'm not sure how I feel.
Well, yeah, I think that the actor was really doing a lot in the performance itself. So to say that she's like one dimensional, it doesn't feel true to me just because like the actor, she just like brings so much weight to the character. And she has like a really strong belief system. And then I like to see, how she kind of like poked and jived at Saxon a little bit. I think there was something more to her. Like there were different parts of her.
And actually, that's really interesting that you said that because she probably had one of the strongest belief systems, and it got her killed.
Yeah, which when that shootout was happening, when the shootout was happening, Rick
He did something very stupid.
runs behind the gong, which is fine, But then Chelsea was standing out in the open, wasn't moving anywhere.
What I think really got her killed is that he should have just said run. He
Yeah.
shouldn't have taken her with him. But I guess that's the whole point. Is that
But I think they're tied together. Whatever happens to him happens to her, and she just like is standing there in shock. Like, what are you doing? You're going to destroy us.
He should have run away.
But I think there's a difference in someone being so enraptured in a partner that they themselves don't have a personality. But I think there's something different about Chelsea in her relationship with Rick.
I mean, to a certain extent, I guess, but she got she said, bad things happen in threes, and she got all the warnings, and she could have just run away, but because she had her belief. I think that's an interesting, even just to look at it in terms of belief and what Mike's saying about whether you should just blindly believe in anything. I don't know. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do have a fun game for us to play. It's just one. So you watched at the end of the episode, there was a behind the scenes interview with Mike White, and he said that for next season, he wants to get away from the water on rocks cinematography.
I missed that. I interpreted that as that they cut to B-roll of water crashing on the rocks too often. They were going to do less of that.
Because water on rocks.
Our friend said, oh, I'm surprised. I thought Mike White was going to announce in this where it would be next season. But he's like, I guess, because apparently they filmed it, but they chose not to.
It's already been filmed?
No. Mike White's interview saying where they were going to film it.
Oh, okay. So where do you think it's going to be?
The group. Now, our friend didn't give any reveals, but that's the question.
But you should use your insider knowledge, and I don't have any insider knowledge, but I have some things. I haven't thought about where it would be, though.
Blue Prada, you can also jump in with where you think.
I don't actually.
Blue Prada, we're actually expecting an answer from you. And anyone else who is listening in, if you have any ideas, the question is, where do you think season 4 of The White Lotus will be filmed? No answer is incorrect.
Okay. Joe, do you want to go first?
Yes. My screen's really small, so for our viewers.
Oh no, Joe froze. Oh, Swiss Alps. Okay, I'm curious about this, Joe, because I heard in an interview situation that
He doesn't like the cold. He does not. But isn't that something that someone would say to get everyone off their backs of where they actually are going to be filming?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I think I spelled part of mine wrong.
Acapulco?
No, I said somewhere in Africa.
You spelled
safari.
Which one? Where did you spell wrong?
Safari.
I think you spelled it correctly.
Oh, okay. That's what I think, because it's still, if he doesn't like the cold, it wouldn't be cold, and it would still have that kind of animal motif. I loved, by the way, when they had Belinda scream when she saw the $5 million in her account, and they synced it with the monkey yelling.
No, that was great.
Okay, what did anybody else have to say?
Our viewers got really quiet all of a sudden. They stopped participating.
There is no random cold calling on Queer Cinema Catch-Up. This is not Lost.
Oh wait, Blue Prada. There is a bit of a delay. Blue Prada said it would be awesome if it was Mexico.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh, because there are many A-list Spanish-speaking actors in Mexico.
This is very true.
So it would be good to utilize that.
I would love to see it.
Now, our friend did say, kind of giving a commentary on just like all 3 seasons so far about like locations, and it was really interesting. I think people had suspicions about how successful it would be to film in Thailand, if it was just going to be really, like, if it was going to paint Thailand in a negative light, that it's like a really, big party country for Americans to just go visit. And then I felt like it was like portrayed in a more positive, like spiritual light.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, and then so in a bigger picture, he was saying how like we see the families or people vacation in Hawaii, and that's kind of like it's still like accessible to a lot of people. And then you go to like Italy, where it's like a little less accessible to people, but like commoners can still kind of like wander around. Whereas this resort in Thailand, it's very removed from, especially the States. And then also, when Jacqueline and her two friends go to the other resort where like the older people are, they said that they tried to get into the White Lotus in Thailand, and they weren't allowed to go because they weren't posh enough. So not only are they very secluded from, the United States, they're also secluded from like the community in Thailand. So it's kind of like this whole idea. Our friend was saying how, the White Lotus is kind of a place for, especially in Thailand, because it's so removed from everything, is like people go, like, not to say all Americans, but when a lot of Americans travel abroad, they feel like it's like not a real, it's kind of like a Disneyland, It's like, it's not our reality. So whatever we do, we can kind of get away with more. So it was like really interesting. I feel like in this season of White Lotus, they really like did the extreme of a lot of those situations of, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, what happens in Thailand stays in Thailand.
Well, and I also think it's interesting that it's kind of showing us the levels of wealth, kind of like the circles of hell or something. Like Hawaii, yeah, pretty accessible, right? I mean, not for everybody, but more accessible. Mm-hmm. Italy, the circle's smaller. Thailand, the circle's the smallest possible. And I feel like that's reflected in Victoria Ratliff's comments about respectable people. A very specific idea of what that means. And I'm wondering if would she have liked Tanya, or would she have seen her as not respectable because she was kind of a mess, even though Victoria was a mess in her own way. It was different.
Probably not respectable. Who do you think, whose net worth was more, the Ratliff family or Tanya?
I don't remember how Tanya...
Belinda says that she was like...
$billion.
No, 500 billion. She was like half a billionaire is what Belinda said. And
where did she get her money from? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, good question.
The Ratliffs are old money.
Oh.
And that's where I think the distinction, it's not just about how much money you have, it's about how you got it, where you come from, and all that elitist type mentality.
Wow. Who have we not talked about yet?
I think we covered everybody. Let me double check my list of names.
I mean, we didn't really talk about Valentin and his...
Oh, yeah.
That all just kind of fell to the wayside, I felt.
I was also just surprised. These are bad men, right? So their plan, if they were to get caught, for them to get caught, was for Valentin to just go over and be like, please, gay talk, don't say anything, and appeal. I guess they thought he was a soft target, that his empathy would win out over anything else. So maybe that's why. But I was kind of surprised they didn't use violence.
Yeah.
And I did like seeing Gay Talk, even though I disagree with his choice. I like seeing him wear the cool black outfit with the.
That was really fun. Yeah, that was fun.
I was kind of happy for him. But Moog, I mean, Lisa, the performer, the actress, she's awesome. Like really kind of like with Amy Lou Wood. I love her performance. She's so one note about she only is gonna like Gay Talk if he is ambitious.
That's why I do feel. I said it in an earlier episode, but I do feel like the Gay Talk and Mook's storyline, I just was a bit like not engaged by it, which I think is not the best to do when they're like the ones tied to the country. I feel like whenever we like cut to them, I was like, oh, this.
I think they could have more Thai storylines.
Yeah.
Wait, also, another question for you. Would you say this is the least gay season of The White Lotus?
What was gay about season 2?
Valentino is gay, and then one of the prostitutes hooks up with her so that she could become the singer.
Right. And Peppa Pig, queer icon.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then what was season 1?
Armand.
Oh.
That's the gayest one.
Yeah. Yeah.
As we get on the wealthier train, is becoming a little bit less gay.
Well, I mean, Gary/Greg, queer.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just kind of an elaborate fantasy.
Yeah.
But I guess you maybe Sam Rockwell's character.
Oh, Sam, yeah. Who was originally, the role was going to go to the guy from Zombieland. Completely forget his name.
Jesse Eisenberg?
No. I should give you a name. Does any of our viewers know? No.
Oh.
Woody Harrelson.
Oh yeah, I did see that. I could have seen that too. They have similar energy.
Yeah.
Woody's
But
little
the group was chatting. The group that
Woody
I
would be better.
what?
Woody's like kind of even scarier to me. Like I feel
Well,
like
so when I was in the group that I watched the show with, someone made this really good comment that had Woody Harrelson played the role of Sam Rockwell's character, the whole monologue that Sam Rockwell gives in that first scene that he plays with such, while it is like, wow, this is, I've never heard this before, he gives it such like emotional depth where you like really believe what he's saying is true. Whereas I feel like Woody Harrelson, like maybe this would have been an opportunity to really surprise me in his performance, but I kind of would have felt like it had more like of a wink to it, like, oh, this is correct. Like he doesn't, this is so outlandish. Whereas like I felt like Sam Rock, as he was saying, it felt true what he was saying.
I agree.
And I think that like is such an important like character development is that monologue that he has in his first episode that I think it would, and again, I could be wrong, but I feel like it would be kind of a disservice to have casted him. So I'm happy with the decision, and I'm glad to think that Leslie Bibb and Sam Rockwell, as they are partners, got to be in Thailand for 6 months. That's how long they're. That's how long it takes to film this show. They're there for 6 months.
That's crazy. And then
And
I'm not complaining, but then we only get how many episodes were there? 8 episodes.
I
That's
know.
how TV is made these days.
But they, oh my gosh, the things the actors were. I heard some more behind the scenes how it was so hot
I heard that too.
in Thailand that they'd have to wear like ice packs under all their clothes. Parker Posey, anytime she was seated, she would hide like ice packs all around the cushions under her seats. They'd even like tape them to their like stomachs underneath their clothes just because it was so hot. And then the bugs are so bad in Thailand. Like that shot that you saw in the finale where they were spraying, that's what they really do is they pretty much every day like fumigate because there's a really bad like mosquito problem. There's also a really bad ant problem. It just gets everywhere. So,
Wow.
so 6 months of work and it's
That's awesome for the actors.
Yeah.
Also, I think something very cool. I don't know if it was true. I didn't read the article, but apparently all the actors make the exact same amount of money.
yeah, they do.
It's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and I applaud that.
Which I think because it would like how would this show get made though? If everyone based on like
Yeah.
their experience were getting paid, so it makes sense to. But yeah, I like that. I'm happy that everyone's getting paid the same amount. Everyone's putting the same amount of time into it, and like all these performances, like everybody in this season, like
Yeah.
did just a stellar job with what they had.
Yeah. Now that we're at the end, are you gonna say like how would you rank the seasons, or how do you feel about this season, or yeah, any thoughts about that?
I am gonna rank. It's recency bias, but I think this is my favorite season.
Whoa.
And then I'd say season 1 is my second favorite.
Okay.
Season 2 is my least favorite.
I think I like this finale the best of all the finales that I've seen from the White Lotus.
I was on the edge of my seat the whole time.
Yeah. I still think season 1 is my favorite, followed by this season, followed by season 2.
I'm surprised.
Really?
Yeah, I thought season 2 was higher for you. I mean, there's only 3 seasons. There's only so many varieties of options, right?
I always like season 1 more.
Blue Prada plays it chronologically. They like season 1 the most, season 2 the second most, season 3 the least. Blue Prada, do you have any insight why you feel this way? Oh, and Blue Prada also thinks that the season 2 finale is the best.
Oh, well, it is a good.
The season 2 finale upset me. Like when Tanya dies, it just was so.
It was upsetting too. We like Tanya. We don't want her to die.
And we watched it I think it's just the two of us, right? And
Maybe.
and I think maybe like in a group setting, I was worried that I was like played for a laugh, but I was not laughing. I was like,
I was not laughing. I was not. But it's okay if anybody else was.
Blue Prada said, "Do we want a continuation of any of these characters? I don't. Let's move on. I want a continuation of Belinda. I want a continuation of Porn Chai.
Bring back Belinda. Honestly, I want to see what happens to, because I thought that what was going to happen was they were going to get on the boat and the ratless were going to turn on their phones and everything was going to be fine. So I was very interested in the fact that that's not what happened. I would like to see what actually happens to them when they do have to deal with that.
Yeah, it was a little inconclusive, like I couldn't tell if they were like, I mean, I guess they showed a shot of Saxon looking at his phone, and he seemed to be like a little upset, but like not enough to like. They didn't react in a way that justified Jason Isaac wanting to murder all of them this entire season.
That was the darkest thing I've seen.
It was rough going to that every time.
I felt ill.
Yeah, and just like, yeah, especially this episode, like Jason decided that he's going to use the suicide nut of the tree that's planted in the White Lotus. You think they'd remove those items, or you think that I don't know.
There's some questions about the world of the show. Poisonous trees, they would be taken out for resort property. A man who maybe killed his wife near White Lotus property would probably not be hiding out near White Lotus property in another country.
I love how this is turning into, like, the White Lotus is turning into, like, Murder, She Wrote, where, like, every episode, Jessica Fletcher just happens to be in the small town where murders happened. It's like, at every White Lotus, there just happens to be somebody murders. Like, if, like, the fucking Four Seasons, if people were having shootouts and people were getting murdered on boats, you know, you'd start questioning, should I stay at this resort? What's going on? But I guess in a way, a lot of it is linked to, is Gary his real name or Greg is his real name?
I think it's Greg. I don't remember, I think it's Greg.
Okay. Greg, I guess, is linked, we can assume, to all these murders. So it's all, I mean, I guess that makes sense. It's not also random. It is.
Well, this time around, well, I guess you're right in the sense that he's able to be in Thailand, and that man, the dad of...
Oh, wait. Rick's dad has nothing to do with Greg. It is random.
I was going to make a way to... He could be kind of connected to that man.
Please do.
It's really influential, but it wasn't really established, so... No.
Blue Prada agrees. His name is Greg. His real name is Greg.
Oh, thank you. Double naming. G's. I don't know.
The double G's.
Double G's. Unless it's Gilmore Girls, I don't... I don't know what's going on. Wait, so I have an idea.
Wait, Blue Prada has another question. But Blue Prada, you haven't asked the question yet. You said, can I ask another question to Allison, please?
Of course.
Well, Blue Prada has not stated the question yet.
Oh, we'll take your time. Okay, I can tell you my idea.
Tell your idea.
And
while Allison's doing that, Blue Prada, please type out your question.
Okay. I'm sorry to do this over live in case you don't like this idea, so I put you on the spot. But since we're really committed to TV recaps and we're not going to be watching them together, maybe this is how we do all of the TV recaps.
I like that.
And it's so fresh, and it's really our
reaction. I like that.
Okay, deal.
All right. Blue Prada asks, okay. So when Lachlan dies, they show this very dramatic scene that really affected me. I was really upset when they were showing this. Lachlan is sinking in the water. It seems like he's like trying to swim up to the top. He doesn't quite look like upset or devastated, but he definitely seems like he wants to get out of the water. He sees 4 like outlines, which you kind of assume, or at least I assumed, was the Ratliff family above the water. But as he breaches closer to the water, they are figures that are not the Ratliff family, correct?
Correct.
And Blue Prada, in their question, they're saying that they use a visual callback of the idea of, you know, when we pass away.
Yes.
The Buddhist belief of we're like droplets that go back into the ocean that return back to Earth. And then so to have this whole visual play out, Blue Prada is asking, like, all this happens, what do you think of all of that? But then it turns out Lachlan does not die.
You know, it is really interesting because I definitely thought that it was a callback to the monologue about what happens when we die. I think it's interesting that they cut away when it really seemed like Lachlan was dead. And actually, you said you were on the edge of your seat the entire finale. I actually got taken out of it when I saw that Chelsea was also dead. I'm like, oh man, you're just killing the sweet, innocent children character, like the people that you feel like, oh, I love those characters.
Well,
you know what I mean?
yeah, so sorry to jump in really quick, but while you're on this thought, they dramatized Lachlan's death so intensely, and I was so upset and like disturbed and just like overwhelmed by it. By the time it gets to the shootout and Chelsea dies, I'm like, I was like
What?
I was so exhausted by Lachlan's death. I'm like, of course you're gonna kill Chelsea too. Of course you are. So that's like
Yeah.
it kind of like shortened like the. I mean, that's probably the intention, but it just kind of like took away kind of the impact of Chelsea passing away.
I mean, exactly. And then I can't remember, do they then show, yeah, then they show Rick dying and the two of them in the water together, and then they show Lachlan waking up. So it seemed to me there was something about, I don't know how to explain this. Like, it was almost as if those two passing away, the gods let Lachlan live, or it was like I don't know how to, I don't really know what it means, but I think it's intentional that they cut away, showed us these other deaths, and then revealed that Lachlan wakes up. But I don't really have
Well,
an analysis of it right now.
yeah, and this probably doesn't answer the question, but like the facts that when Lachlan comes to, he says that he thinks he saw God. So I took it more as like he was having like a spiritual experience, kind of like the ayahuasca. You take this drug and you like go outside of yourself. You experience death. It kind of like changes your mindset. And Lachlan, who has been so lost this season and who just seems to be such a people pleaser that he himself, like, what does he even want? He just like, his only purpose in life is just to help other people. As I interpreted this near-death experience could kind of give him, like a more sense of self or like a rebirth in a way.
Wait, that actually made me help me kind of think it through a little bit.
Yeah.
So if the idea of if in Buddhism, in other sort of Eastern religions, the idea being that you need to be just not attached to your sense of self, right, in order to either pass on and become one with everyone else, or to, if you believe in reincarnation, to come back at a higher level. I don't really know all of the rules, but Lachlan is someone who is very detached from self, right? He doesn't even have a sense of self, trying to find one. So maybe in the water, he learned to just let himself go, which is why he was spared. Whereas Rick, in contrast, was so consumed by himself, his suffering, this baggage he's been carrying around, and the need to set it right and fix the past so he can live in the present. Because of that, he dies for real.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been what the purpose was.
I like
But I
that.
wouldn't have gotten there without the question or what you said. So,
Well,
thanks, guys.
and then Blue Prada is saying that the figures above the water might have been the four monks.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought they were.
And so who are the four monks?
Well, I thought they were four monks. I don't know if
Okay.
they were four monks. There
Not-
might be.
Not
That's
the,
my knowledge.
not the, yeah. Yeah. Any other strong reactions to this?
No, just that I really liked it. I almost texted you. I didn't know where you were in the episode, but I almost texted you to say how this is an example of where I don't want to feel these feelings even in a safe setting, because I was so upset by what was happening with Lachlan that even my little TV joke of how I love to experience negative emotions via fiction, I was like, I don't want to experience this negative emotion.
I know.
When it's over, I could say I did want to experience it.
Yeah.
Because I liked the episode.
Wait, how did you watch the episode?
I watched on my laptop.
Okay.
Sad. But actually, I'm considering not getting a TV. Just as a side note, I know. Because
Wait. The person in every episode that says, I'm a TV person, like, I'm a TV person, is not going to have a TV. I'm sorry. I'm really small on the screen, so I need to get up close, that I'm hearing that correctly. You're not going to get a TV?
Because I just care about stories, so I can just watch it on my laptop. Caroline doesn't like this idea either.
No TV?
Because if I do have a TV, I have to put it on that wall, and that really limits my furniture situation.
Okay.
Oh, I'll keep you updated.
Please. Every day.
Yeah. Still no TV.
Still no TV. Yeah, wow. So I'm getting more questions for Blue Prada. Oh, wasn't the pan to the boat going back on the boat at the end really sudden? And then where was Rick planning to take Chelsea? I think that Rick wasn't really. I think Rick was just in shock and he was just trying to carry Chelsea to whatever he thought safety was.
Yeah, which just shows that he doesn't understand it at all because he should have told her to run away.
And then the boat, yeah. I mean, for me more so, like when they cut to the boat as they're all leaving, I took that. I was like, wow, the episode's coming to an end. The season's coming to an end, and our conversation on White Lotus season 3 is coming to an end.
We've had weeks of this.
Weeks.
And weeks.
8 weeks.
Wow.
So we did so I think Allison had mentioned like we're gonna plan to do like live. We're planning to talk about Hacks season 4, is that, and then The Last of Us season 2. And I think this is a great format for us to, since we're not watching them together, kind of give our like live reaction to them and also get some participation. So I'll probably I'll publish this live stream also, and hopefully that will.
Do you think you'll
get some more
publish it
people.
on the same date, like the Tuesday?
I think I was just gonna publish it after.
Okay, you can send me. Should we put the audio on? We talk about. Sorry, guys. This is not interesting for everybody else.
Put the
A logistical question that I probably shouldn't be asking.
Oh. Well, I don't know if it plays as well as a. Well, I guess it could be podcast.
I mean, I think just to complete the White Lotus, we don't have to do it for the next one.
Oh, you're right.
We probably should. Okay. Sorry, guys.
And you guys specifically, Blue Prada, which is a little behind the scenes discussion.
Yes. Thank you
yeah.
to our listeners. We really appreciate you tuning in and asking questions. Like, thank you so much.
Blue Prada says that they have so much criticism to share over the show, and says that they are a difficult viewer, but that is not true, Blue Prada. We love your interaction, and we will be planning to do many more reviews. Yes, we'll be doing more live reviews.
And I do love TV, and I'm generally more positive, but I really like analyzing TV and thinking about it through a new perspective. So you can be as critical as you'd like. I really enjoy reading what you have to say. Reading, or listening to Joe recount it to me, since I can't read it right now.
Yeah. Queer Cinema Catch-Up is the podcast we talk about movies, TV, and miscellaneous topics through a queer lens. I'm Joe.
I'm Allison.
Thank you so much for listening to our recap to the season 3 finale of White Lotus.
Bye, Armand.
Bye, Valentina.